You're listening to the Launchcast, the podcast about leadership, business, life, and growth with me, your host, George Andriopoulos.
It's like food for your ears.
At this time, I'm going to ask that you fasten your seatbelts.
Launch sequence.
Launch sequence activated.
Launch sequence activated.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Launchcast. Gonna cut that intro a little bit short now because this is a different kind of episode. Thank you for joining me, guys, for episode 108 entitled Mamba Out. It is the Kobe Bryant tribute episode. It's me. Thank you, guys. The launch dad himself, George Andriopoulos, and I wanted to bring you guys a special bonus episode of the Launchcast today. This is different than what we normally do. I've been very touched and affected by the news of what happened to NBA legend Kobe Bryant over the last few days, and so I wanted to get out here and just speak about it with people that are not only fans of Kobe, but fans of leadership in itself, because Kobe was a leader in what he did. Big time was a leader in what he did, and also within the industries that he worked, whether it was basketball, whether it was his charitable stuff, whether it was his businesses. And so there's a lot of stuff that I want to talk about today. And what I would like to do is to get a little bit of feedback from the audience now. We're going to take this entire episode live on Facebook Live on all of our pages, as well as, of course, broadcasting on all podcasting platforms when this episode is released, which is going to be later this week, not our normal Monday releases. So stay tuned for that. So I'm going to get started by reading a little bit about Kobe and what he did in the NBA first. So guard Kobe Bryant played 20 seasons for the Los Angeles Lakers. His career averages were 25 points per game, 5.2 rebounds per game, 4.7 assists per game in 1,346 regular season games for the Lakers. All for the Lakers, by the way. Bryant won one MVP award and was selected to play in 18 All-Star games. He won 5 championships with the Lakers, wore 2 numbers, number 8, which is hanging up back here in honor of the Black Mamba, and number 24. He wore number 8 for the first half of his career, first 10 seasons, and then switched over to number 24. I read some really cool stats about how, a lot of times people think that a player, especially one that played for 20 seasons, is going to sort of lose it in those 20 seasons, and his stats in terms of points scored were almost identical in the first 10 years as they were in the second 10 years. He won 3 championships in the first 10 years. He won 2 championships in his second 10 years. 20 years, first of all, is an incredible feat, let alone to do it all on the same team. But I mean, points scored were almost half. I think I did the math before. I think there was like an 89-point difference between points scored in his first 10 years and points scored in the second 10 years. And he was injury-ridden for his last 2 years of play, 2 or 3 years of play. So that says a lot right there. Excuse me. What I want to do first is just acknowledge not only Kobe Bryant, but all 9 people who lost their lives in the tragic helicopter crash. And so I want to read all of their names to honor them. I know we've been putting a lot of emphasis on Kobe himself and his daughter, but the honest truth is that 9 lives were lost the other day, and it's a crying shame. And I want to say, though, that I do see a lot of backlash on social media. Why are we focusing on Kobe and not the other people? Look, if we knew the other people, Personally, not that we knew Kobe personally, but we're going to talk about what this sort of meant to sports fans around the world as this podcast goes on today. But if we knew them personally, I'm sure we would have just as big of a focus. But I knew Kobe in terms of being a fan of his, right? This is somebody that for 20 plus years I've been following this guy's career. And, he started 1996 in my senior year of high school. And so he meant a lot to a lot of people. And so we need to look at that emphasis right now on the tribute to his death as really just honoring a person that we sort of knew, honestly. But, of course, Kobe Bryant was lost. His 13-year-old daughter, Gigi Bryant. Gianna's basketball teammate, Alyssa Altobelli. Alyssa's father, John Altobelli, who was the baseball coach at Orange Coast College. Kerry Altobelli, Alyssa's mother. Christina Mauser, a basketball coach at the nearby Harbor Day School where Gigi Bryant attended. Peyton Chester, a middle school student. Sarah Chester, Peyton's mother. And the pilot, Ara Zobayan. So nine lives lost there. And I do want to, I know probably sounds silly to all of you because this is just a tiny little podcast, and but I want to do my part in honoring them. So I just want to have a moment of silence for all those lives lost. So what I want to do next is just talk a little bit. And again, any questions that come in, guys, post on, we're live on Facebook now on a few different pages. We're live on Periscope, Twitter. We're live on YouTube, maybe even LinkedIn. Not sure. So any questions you guys have, you want to get involved in the conversation, please post them, and we'll try and get to them. I want to read a letter that I wrote, an open letter, as a social media post to kind of let you guys understand sort of what I've been thinking these last few days as a sports fan, and then I'll kind of get into what this letter means to me and why I wrote it. So this is an open letter to Kobe Bryant. It reads, excuse me. It reads, "Dear Mamba, I have always been a Bulls fan. Since I can remember seeing Michael Jordan play for the first time, I was completely hooked. As a teenager, I would record games and go to the gym, and I would try and mimic MJ's form. The Bulls were my team, but I also liked the Knicks because I'm a New Yorker and they were my dad's team, and I liked Patrick Ewing. I liked the Celtics because of Bird. I liked the Lakers because of Magic. I always admired the legends because I have a great respect for history and those that came before us. Basketball invited me into the world of sports, and I am so thankful for the joy that sports has given me throughout my life." The question for me is, do you know how to crack even the most seemingly emotionless of men? Sports. Watch a sports fan witness their team winning a championship, and you will see a roller coaster of emotions. The Mamba gave that joy to basketball fans 5 times, Lakers fans and basketball fans, not including his 2 gold medals, all the All-Star games, and of course the daily grind of 20 82-game seasons and the playoffs that follow them. This one hit me hard. Kobe came onto the scene during my last year of high school. When the comparisons to Jordan started, I completely despised him. I hated that fans thought that my guy, MJ, could be replaced. Even worse, I hated that when I watched his form, his body language, and even his mannerisms during interviews, I knew that he was trying to be a carbon copy of the GOAT, the greatest of all time, Michael. And then Jordan retired. And although there were plenty of superstars left to enamor us, it wasn't the same anymore. Not for me, at least. That is until Kobe won his first ring. And that's when I realized that something special was happening. The next generation of kids were watching, and they had their own GOAT. I realized that Kobe wasn't mimicking MJ to steal his moves. He was doing it because Jordan was his GOAT. It was his player. And this was his roadmap to success when he was young. He did the same thing that I used to do in a gym. Of course, much better, by the way. He did the same thing that I used to do in a gym as a teenager. He wanted to be like Mike. Only he wasn't just like Mike. He was the Black Mamba, one of the deadliest players to ever lace them up. The most killer instinct there ever was in the NBA. Kobe earned his place on the Mount Rushmore of basketball, and I am absolutely heartbroken that one of the legends that changed the game is gone so tragically. I'm even more heartbroken to think that he had to hold his 13-year-old daughter in his arms to try and protect her as they both lost their lives. 9 souls were lost, all important, but this man was a legend to me, and today my heart hurts. Prayers up to the Mamba, Kobe Bryant, the greatest Laker to ever wear the purple and gold. You gave us all so much. Signed, your fan, George. So I wrote that the other day and posted it on social media. I wrote a longer form of that and sent it out to a few outlets to see if I could get that published because, you know, just like the players have the Players Tribune, which I'll mention in a little bit, that is run by Derek Jeter, and have an outlet. I thought it was important that, you know, people read this from a fan. And by the way, not a Laker fan. You know, I like I said, I like the Lakers in terms of the greatness of their organization, and it's one of the most legendary sports franchises in history. The people that have come through there: Kobe, Shaq, LeBron now, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Magic Johnson, James Worthy, you know, Jerry West, everybody. I mean, it's legendary. Wilt Chamberlain, and so I always enjoyed watching a Laker game, but I was a Bulls fan. And so as a Bulls fan, and I'm a Bulls fan, sorry, not was. So as a Bulls fan, you know, I was constantly rooting against the Lakers, but you couldn't really help but root for Kobe sometimes because, man, when you realize just the work that somebody has put into something and how good they are at what they do, it's what I strive to do. Right? That killer instinct to be a winner and to beat your opponent and to just be the best at what you do. It's what I strive for my mentality every day. I want that Mamba mentality that he had. That's what I try and do every single day. And to sustain that for 20 years in the NBA, the greatest platform for playing basketball on the planet, the most competitive platform for playing basketball on the planet. And he killed it. For 20 seasons, he stayed competitive. He started off as a blue chipper coming out of high school, Lower Merion High School. You know, one of the first to sort of come out of high school and play the game and go straight into the NBA. And within a few years, he had won his first ring and formed probably one of the best duos in history with Shaq in terms of a little and a big playing together. The best little big combo that there ever was. And I heard Shaq talk about this on the big Shaq podcast, the big podcast with Shaq earlier today. You know, and to then, after Shaq moved on and went to Miami and a few other teams, you know, to sort of do it now with a new team, do it with Pau Gasol and the rest of the guys and win 2 more championships and stay competitive all those years. And down to his last game, which was so legendary. I mean, as a sports fan, to watch him playing his last game and score 60 points was one of the most incredible feats I had ever witnessed. I remember they were playing the Utah Jazz, and it was like every single basket was going in. It clicked back, and he was like the old Kobe again. I remember Shaq on the sidelines watching him, and just how happy everybody was. Social media was blowing up during this game. You know, being so good at what you do, you know, and thoughtfully doing it. It wasn't just raw talent. That man practiced more than anybody on the planet has ever practiced basketball. And there's something to be said about that mentality where I'm not just going to rely on my raw talent, because he had the raw talent. Michael Jordan, I look at, he's my favorite player of all time and arguably the greatest player of all time. He's up there with Mike, and Mike was just naturally talented and, of course, worked his ass off. But, man, from what I heard, the legends of Kobe's work ethic were tremendous. It's what sparked, a lot of the rifts between Kobe and Shaq during their time together and subsequently after Shaq left the Lakers and was traded to Miami. And so, as a man, as a business person, as somebody who strives to be successful, to me, that's huge. To be so persistent about putting the work in every day, because you will not be successful unless you put that work in every single day at what you want to be good at. Now, that's the basketball player, and I have to acknowledge that and talk about that, because this is what drew me. Sports, for a lot of people, and I'm going to speak as a man right now, but I know this applies to every gender, every single person on this planet that is into sports. Sports is so special to us as real sports fans. My two favorite sports are basketball and football, but basketball for me blows everything away. A guy like this comes once in a generation, really. I grew up with Jordan. The next generation grew up with Kobe and then LeBron. And there's going to be somebody else taking LeBron's place one day, whether it's Zion or whoever's next to be that guy. But he gave a lot of people joy. He gave a lot of people joy over the years. You could see that in the reactions right now over Kobe's death. I know it was so tragic in how it happened, but the outpouring of love. I have been watching interview after interview and tweet after tweet for the last few days since this happened, and it's almost like I'm a glutton for punishment because it makes me emotional when I watch these things. But it really means something when you have some of your biggest competitors going out there and they're at a loss for words. I mean, these were people that were just professional colleagues. I watched Doc Rivers doing an interview. Doc is the coach of the LA Clippers, and they were supposed to have a game tonight, the Clippers and the Lakers, which was postponed, which I think was a smart move. But Doc had no words. He couldn't even compose himself. He was a mess on that interview. I get it. I heard Shaquille speaking. I saw Michael Jordan's comments come out. The NBA's comments, the Lakers themselves, the organization was so tight-knit in terms of the Buss family and Kobe. I heard that Kobe was really tight with Jeannie Buss. And so they sound like they're completely broken. And so, what sports has done for me as a man, and I know that a lot of other men can agree with me on this, it's sort of taught me, without playing basketball competitively. I never played basketball in high school. I just played for fun, as really as an adult and a teenager. It's taught me a lot about responsibility. It's taught me a lot about sportsmanship. It's taught me a lot about competitive drive. We need sports in a healthy way. We need sports to teach us that. And so when you have leaders like Kobe that come out and show us the blueprint for how it should be done, it's really special. And so we have to acknowledge how special his contribution was to the world at large, not just basketball, but to the world at large. Outside of basketball, and I wanted to talk about this stuff a little bit. Kobe retired in 2016, and outside of basketball since then, the guy's been a powerhouse. I've seen some interviews with people who were talking about Kobe's potential and what he had in the works, his plans, and these people were so upset to just see that, none of this was going to happen. None of this was going to come to fruition because he blew us away in basketball, but he was about to blow us away in so many other ways. And we got a little preview of that with his short film, Dear Basketball, which he won an Oscar for. Is that goddamn crazy that an NBA champion and MVP also won an Oscar? It goes to show you. And Dear Basketball actually came from a poem that he wrote and he published in the Players Tribune, which I want to read real quick. Yeah, it's not too long. So it's Dear Basketball. I don't want to get all mushy on this, but all right. Dear Basketball, from the moment I started rolling my dad's tube socks and shooting imaginary game-winning shots in the Great Western Forum, I knew one thing was real. I fell in love with you, a love so deep I gave you my all. From my mind and body to my spirit and soul. As a 6-year-old boy, deeply in love with you, I never saw the end of the tunnel. I only saw myself, running out of one. And so I ran. I ran up and down every court, after every loose ball for you. You asked for my hustle, I gave you my heart, because it came with so much more. I played through the sweat and hurt, not because challenge called me, but because you called me. I did everything for you, because that's what you do when someone makes you feel as alive as you've made me feel. You gave a 6-year-old boy his Laker dream, and I'll always love you for that. But I can't love you obsessively for much longer. This season is all I have left to give. My heart can take the pounding, my mind can handle the grind, but my body knows it's time to say goodbye. And that's okay. I'm ready to let you go. I want you to know now, so we both can savor every moment we have left together, the good and the bad. We have given each other all that we have. And we both know, no matter what I do next, I'll always be that kid with the rolled up socks, garbage can in the corner, 5 seconds on the clock, ball in my hands. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Love you always, Kobe. The Launchcast is sponsored today by the Leadership Experience, a coaching masterclass. Intentional, unconventional, thoughtful leadership from keynote speaker, CEO, nonprofit board member, and TEDx executive producer, George Andriopoulos. Hey, that's me. Guys, the music's getting louder, which either means that this is a can't-miss epic course or that Fabrizio fell asleep at the controls again. Registration opens on February 1st, and we are beginning on March 1st. This music is so damn loud, and that means it's going to be amazing. And Fabrizio's pay is definitely getting docked this week. Join us, the Leadership EXP, for details. You don't want to miss this. My daughter actually just watched the Dear Basketball short in school yesterday. They showed it during one of her classes, and she loved it. That's an embodiment. Dear Basketball, the poem, is an embodiment of how so many of us feel about basketball. It's incredible to see the passion that one person turned into just a game-changing career, right? To come into basketball as we know it and leave it in a completely different way. That's what the greats did. That's what Wilt did. That's what Bill Russell did. That's what Magic did. That's what Bird did. That's what Jordan did, and Kobe did that, and LeBron's doing that, and Steph Curry is doing that. These are names that we will remember forever. I'm so sad that Kobe was so close to getting into the Hall of Fame. He deserved to walk up that ramp, and he deserved to be inducted by who he chose to induct him. I don't know if it would have been Michael or Shaq or Phil Jackson, or I'm sure one of those people. He deserved that. He deserved that honor because he has done more for the game of basketball than I can't even tell you. And so what I want to talk about for a minute is, and again, you guys can totally engage if you want, send over questions. I think I'm on all the feeds here. I want to talk for a minute about Kobe outside of basketball. I watched a few more interviews. I watched Jimmy Fallon's reaction, Jimmy Kimmel's reactions last night. Really, really emotional reactions because they both knew Kobe personally. I heard Shaquille O'Neal's reaction on the Big Shaq podcast, Big Podcast with Shaq, sorry. So many of his colleagues, Dwayne Wade. And what was the the one thought that rang through in every single interview that I heard or read was that his role as a father mattered to him more than anything. Kobe had 4 daughters, unfortunately lost one of them with him in his accident. But his role as a father mattered more to him than anything. What I loved is that, and this is something that I think a lot of us can relate to, he had a mission in what he did in terms of his career. He had to be Kobe Bryant. Once it was very apparent that Kobe Bryant was going to be a legacy and being Kobe Bryant was a thing, he had to see that through. And he did that for us, make no mistake. It wasn't just for him. Part of it was for his legacy and for his family, but he did that for the fans, because we always need a Kobe. We always need a Jordan when we're watching our favorite sport. And so he did that for us. He saw through a 20-year career, which is, by the way, probably 3 times, I don't know the figure on this, but probably 3 times or more of what the average NBA career length is. And he saw it through for 20 years. And he did that for us. But once it was over, and he knew it was over, like we read in Dear Basketball, once he knew it was over, he was so excited to move on to focusing just on his family. Had a newborn last year. And so the stories I heard about Kobe as a dad, the time he spent with his girls, Gigi, who was his daughter, Gianna, that was lost in the helicopter crash as well. From what I heard, she was on her way to being a mini Mamba herself. I heard she was a killer player, some of the things I read. And I actually read an article that said that he had applied for a trademark for his daughter from Mambasita, which I thought it brought a smile to my face when I read that. I thought that was pretty cool. But who knows what we would have seen in the future from her or from both of them. But that emphasis on the family and how proud he was of his girls and his family, that really resonated with me. It's why I was really just so upset when I heard this, because it's like you put in all your time into your passion, and at a certain point it becomes more than just doing it for you, right? He finished out that career for the fans, I think, and then you finally have time to relax and enjoy the spoils of your work, right? Dude's worth a lot of money. He's got a lot of businesses. He's been very, very successful, and he deserves every penny of it. And it was time for him to enjoy it. And I think he was enjoying it and having a lot of fun with that, just speaking as a fan from everything that I have read. And so that's something that to me hit me hard as a dad, as somebody that really enjoys being with my kids and just savoring every single moment and knowing that everything I do career-wise and professionally, I'm doing it for them, So that was tough. So I do want to touch on some things outside of just his basketball career, because I read a couple of really, really cool articles. Read an article from Essence.com. 10 times Kobe Bryant was a star off the court. Bryant founded, with his wife Vanessa, the Kobe and Vanessa Bryant Family Foundation, which helps homeless youth in Los Angeles. From what I heard, that was a great organization and still is. Kobe Bryant lends star power and skills to after-school all-stars. 5-time NBA champion, founding donor for the NMAAHC. I'm reading a tweet on this with a picture of the museum. Looks incredible. Kobe Bryant raises money and awareness for war in Darfur. Kobe, Lakers legend, donates books to LeBron James's I Promise School. NBA turned youth coach donates money to high school basketball team. Kobe Bryant acts as a beacon of hope through the Make-A-Wish Foundation. Bryant established the Kobe Bryant China Fund in order to spread basketball, sports, and cultural programs in China and across the world. You don't do this kind of stuff when you're just in it for the money and you're just in it for the accolades. I actually just got off of a webinar that I did with the folks at the Joy Revolution when we were speaking about how important it is when you take a stage as a public speaker to do it for the right reasons, and how it sort of becomes a responsibility when you have that kind of power. You have this public figure persona that people can respect and follow. It becomes a real responsibility to do the right things with it. And so with all of the stuff that Kobe did, he was really doing the right thing in terms of all his philanthropic stuff that he was doing, and incredible stuff. The Mamba Sports Academy, he founded the Mamba League, which is a youth basketball league to give hundreds of kids free access to basketball, and then later created the Mamba Sports Academy. I read this on CNN Business. And coincidentally and ironically, he was on the way to the Mamba Sports Academy when the helicopter crashed on Sunday for a game with his daughter. He has done so much professionally outside of just his philanthropic stuff. He co-founded an investment firm, along with Brian Stibble, the guy who founded Web.com. It's a venture capital firm that was controlling, I think, over $2 billion in assets, which is huge in terms of jumping from basketball to do something like that. And investments in sports drinks like Body Armor, which boosted its valuation in 2018 by selling a stake to Coca-Cola. Basically, anything this guy put his stamp on was successful. And I think it was because of that Mamba mentality that he went through everything with, right? That Mamba mentality was all about practicing and researching and basically doing all you could personally to be the best you could be professionally. That's what the Mamba mentality was, and watching your competitors and studying and trying to outwit your competitors out there, and in turn that turns into success. I read something from Michael Phelps. I think Kobe's somebody who's been super fun to kind of pick his brain about some things. We've had the privilege and the opportunity in our sport to be successful and reach the pinnacle, and we know what it takes to get to that top level. So now it's always the challenge for the athletes to find that drive outside of the sport, which he did in so many ways. In 2016, he founded Granity Studios, a media company that focuses on creative storytelling. And through this company, he narrated and created the short film Dear Basketball, which I mentioned before, which was based off of his poem that he submitted to the Players Tribune during his retirement year. And he won a goddamn Academy Award for the best animated short film in 2018. Granity also released a set of books for young adults, along with Bryant's autobiography, The Mamba Mentality, How I Play. Sharing that knowledge, right? Like, how important is that in terms of, once he's done now, right? He's out of this career. He's cemented his legacy in basketball. He earned his place on the Mount Rushmore of basketball, and now he's sharing that knowledge with other people, sharing what it's like, I guess what made him successful in terms of that mentality, how he harnessed it. That's all I have in terms of the research I did. I love when I do this podcast to really research our guests. And so, of course, today this is not a guest. Of course, today this is about a tribute to a guy that, to me, really deserved it in sports. So this is a different format than we normally have. A much different format. We always have a guest here. We're always having a great time. I do my little shtick in the beginning with my intro, which is a blast. And today I just did not feel like that. Today I am sad, and along with the rest of the sports world, I'm going to be sad for a while because we lost an important figure in sports, which means a lot to a lot of us. I know some people don't take this seriously and probably think that doing a tribute for him is silly. Hey, to each his own. To me, it's important. It's part of that sports drive, being a fan of Michael Jordan, right? Because I'll say that Kobe. I was always a fan of Kobe, but Michael's my guy, right? Very similar. Who do you think the Mamba learned it from? Very similar will to win, competitive drive. Kobe had the work ethic. Jordan probably was the most competitive athlete that I've ever witnessed in my life. And so he sort of took that competitive mentality and grew on it, right? He grew on it, and it evolved into the Mamba mentality, which combined the competitive mentality and the work ethic and this killer instinct. And he did some incredible things. And so this is going to be again, like I mentioned, a different format. We went live for this whole show. I wanted to pay tribute to Kobe. As a fan, I want to say thank you for what you've given us as basketball fans. We watch this sport for a reason. Those of us that are obsessed with basketball, we watch this sport for a reason. And every generation needs that guy. And you were that guy for so many people out there. You helped continue the legacy of one of the most storied franchises in all of sports, up there with the Yankees, up there with the Celtics, up there with the Packers, and so, as fans, we all thank you for what you did for us. I will continue to pray for Kobe's family and all the people out there that are feeling hurt by Kobe. I know we as fans were hurt, but it's nothing compared to what his family is feeling right now. And I want to leave everybody with this. We always do our moment of inspiration at the end of each show. I think this whole show was really about that. And we're going to be shifting to call this our spark moment of the day. But we'll call it the moment of inspiration for this show right now. I've heard this in interviews for the last couple of days, people that are out there that have beef, right? That are angry about something, that are holding a grudge about something that's happened within their lives with a loved one, with a friend, with an ex-friend, whatever. And the sentiment that's ringing through across all of these interviews and posts that I'm seeing is that life is too short, right? It's time to drop that shit. I heard Shaquille today on the big podcast with Shaq talking about how he's getting questioned left and right about his tumultuous relationship with Kobe. And so, sure, it was a tumultuous relationship, and he said, but we're brothers, and that's what happens. Brothers fight, brothers love each other, but in the end, we're still brothers. And so he said that he had regretted not communicating with Kobe more, although they left things just fine. Apparently, Kobe actually called Sharif, Shaq's son, earlier in the day, about an hour before this all went down, to just check in on him, see how everything's going with him. I saw a post from Kendrick Perkins, who had last week that huge Twitter beef with Kevin Durant, his ex teammate, and Perkins put it out there like, hey man, it's all love, I'm sorry, time to end it. And so in that vein, that's kind of that moment that I want to speak about today, is that life is too short. I've been through this, I'm still in this, with some people. Life is too short. Love everybody. Get over it. Get over yourself, because you never know what tomorrow holds. And just move on, because you never know. So I want to thank everybody for joining me today. Thank you for listening in on this little bit of a different format. I felt that I wanted to put this out there today. And this isn't about ratings. This isn't about putting out content about Kobe, because that's what everybody's doing right now. This is a basketball fan sending his appreciation to a guy that brought him a lot of joy on the television screen and in arenas over the years. So the last thing that I heard Kobe say on a basketball court ever was Mamba out in his last interview after his last game. And so Mamba out for real right now. We're sad that we won't ever hear from you again, but your legacy will never be forgotten. Thank you for joining me, guys, on this special episode of the Launchcast. I'll see you next time.
Launch sequence terminated.
Into the black hole.
Thanks for listening to the Launchcast today. Please make sure to subscribe to this feed wherever podcasts are available. Follow me, George Andriopoulos, at Launchpad CEO on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. And make sure to visit our website, guys, thelaunchcast.com. Looking forward to the next episode. See you soon, guys.